The first thing you get to learn about when you're developing is how do we start storing information as we're writing some of the stuff down throughout our application. And this is where we use a variable. And kind of think of a variable as a container or a bin. We use containers to store stuff, and what's inside the bin is what we would call the variable and what it holds. And so, as we have a bin, let's say I put a bunch of controllers in it or a bunch of stocks, whatever it is, right? We use a variable in a very similar way. We say, hey, this container is our variable, and what's in the variable is what we want to store. So as we go through this, we are going to learn how to store variables into different data types. With C Sharp, it's very specific where it's not just a generic bin that you just throw anything into. Like you probably have one at home where it's just like a bunch of random stuff, and that works. Now, in C Sharp, you got to kind of tell it what's in the bin. So let's go ahead and start with our very first piece. So I hit enter here, and I'm just gonna hit a couple extra enters. When you're in here, it doesn't matter if I add 10 enters or not. I'm just spacing this out so it's a little bit easier for you to see. So with this here, we're gonna do what we call variables. So as I'm going through this, there's one piece right here, the two forward slashes. What that means is it's gonna be a comment. So it's not going to be recognized in code, but allows us to write information down and make comments along our journey. So I'm going to go ahead and start using that. So I'm going to say slash and do variables just so that we can kind of create like this piece here. And the first type we're going to talk about is strings. So I'm just going to say strings. There we go. And what we're going to do is kind of talk about how this data is stored. So the first type of data value is called string. So we're going to do string. All your options show up. I'm going to hit space and then the name of the container. So in this case, I'm just going to call it my string. And I'm going to start typing out how we do our variables and where we lowercase the first word and then capitalize the next word afterwards. And this is just one way to kind of get our naming convention in place for how we look at some of this stuff. And will go a bit more into it later. But I'm just going to call this my string, all one word. And I'm going to hit equals. And I'm going to save some what the variable of string is inside my string. So in this case, we're going to do quotes and go my first string variable. There we go. It could be anything else you want, and just go ahead and type something in. It has to be within the quotes. If you don't put it within the quotes, this is what's going to happen. You're going to start seeing red everywhere. You hover over it, it's like, hey, I don't know what to expect from this. That's because string is everything within quotes, and that's how we have that set up. All right. Now, as you're typing this in, you're going to see this yellow line. If you click on it, it says unnecessary assignment of value to my string. Variable my string is assigned, but it's never used. So it's just not being used at the moment, but we have it set up. So it's okay. Yellow is just more kind of like a warning. You could continue on, but it is trying to be helpful here of what's going on. So let's go ahead and use that in a sec. All right. So I'm gonna just put a comment above this because this is our very first piece. I'm just gonna do comment here, and I'm gonna move this just a little bit so then it could line up with that. Okay, there we go. So this is where we use something called a data type, right? So that's string right here is the data type, and I'm gonna just space this out like this just for the moment right here, and we'll clean it up in a sec. So we have our data type, and then this is our variable, and then it is equal to whatever is you want to put in your variable. So whatever you want to put in the variable. There we go. So now you got yourself the format of how this is. Feel free to add a couple more other variables and so forth. I'm going to leave this as is right now. And let's go ahead and just use this variable. So let me just add another comment here. I'm going to print out the string variable. How the heck do we do that? We go back to what we just used a little while ago. So we got our console.write line. And in here, we are going to just put my string. And that's it. So if we save this, we're going to run it. And hopefully, based on how all this goes, you will see my first string variable pop up just like that. Underneath, I am the fourth line. And what's happening here is my string is holding this in quotes right here. And this in quotes is what I was typing out here anyways. So this is how we start putting our data into variables in order for us to do things like this. And we use variables throughout programming because we don't know what the actual value is going to be at any given moment. So instead of saying it only is this could be all sorts of stuff, right? So we use variables to help us out along the way. Now, as we get more and more advanced, there's a lot more ways for us to control the output of whatever an action is from a user and so forth. So right now, that's kind of how we have our string. So feel free to take a second, add some more strings and so forth. But we are now going to kind of talk about a little bit of cleanup here. So as we go, there's a lot more we're going to cover. So I'm going to add what we're a clear statement that's going to clear our terminal. Now I'm going to have to go and add it at the very top. So I'm just going to go to line 1, push enter, and I'm going to type in console.clear, and it'll pop up. We need to do open and close parentheses and close that out. Hit save. And now if you just hit run again, what it's going to do is it's going to clear the terminal so then you don't see everything all the time and you only see what's ran. And for some reason, it wanted to restart my terminal while we're talking. So that's fine. Sometimes that happens, but this is what gets printed. So if I run it again, it's going to clear all that out and just show this. So that's what console.clear does. So now let's go ahead and do a little bit more housekeeping. As we start moving along, what we're going to do is add breaks in our sections. So visually, we could start seeing where things are at. So we're just going to go under our right line of my string, and we're going to call string, and we're going to say section break equals, and I'm just doing this, just something super long. Doesn't really matter how long it is, it's going to be fine. And then I'm going to hit enter, and let's add one more string, and we're going to use the word title, and this is going to be the title for each section goes here. All right, now that we got that, let's go ahead and make a break line. So we have to print it out. So print out break line. You don't have to type that comment out, but I'm just going to do that. So now let's do console write line, and we're going to do section break. Perfect. And I'm going to hit save, and let's go ahead and run this, and you're going to just see what happens from here. So boom, there we go. Notice that you saw something pop up in yellow, and now you have something here in problems. If you click here, it's just telling you, hey, you've set title up, but you're just not using it. So just know, like, it's keeping track of these things, and we are going to use title, and this is where it would do it. But notice how this got printed. That's a nice divider, I would say, but I'm just going to make it a little bit longer just because. Let's go ahead and run it. All right, cool, perfect. So we're just going to move forward with that. Now that we have title here, let's go ahead and make a change to the title. So underneath section break, what we're going to do is rename title. And the nice, easy way to do this is we just use a variable name. So we say title equals and whatever you want it to be. So in this case, we're going to move on to adding two strings together. So we're just going to say adding two strings together. Let's go ahead and save that. And what we're going to do is hit run. And as we go through this, you're going to see, oh yeah, no, I mean, we made the variable, we saved it. I just forgot to write it. So let's go ahead and add the console write line. Console write line, and then it will show up, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Hit save, and go ahead and hit run. There we go. All right, we're doing good. So now that we have that set up, we have our section break and the next title topic of what we're doing. So let's go ahead and I'm going to hit enter and start the next part. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to make a first name and last name. So I'm just going to say string first name, and we're going to make the first name very creative and use John, and do string last name equals Doe. And I already realized I need to go back and capitalize N. There we go. So we have John Doe, first name, last name. So what we're going to do is add those together and then print them out. So the way we add it is we just use the plus sign. And that's really nice for us to be able to just use things that we already know how to do when we say, hey, let's add this together. So in this case, I'm going to say string full name equals, and then I'm just going to say first name plus last name. All right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to space this out so you could visually see it, but it does not require that. Okay, so now that we have this, let's go ahead and just do a console dot write line to full name. There we go. Hit save. I'm going to go ahead and hit run, and let's see what comes out. All right, we got John Doe, but you probably noticed something. There is no space in between the first name and last name. So how do we do that? And so we got a couple options. We can go ahead and add a space to it within the name. So like, for example, it's here and it takes care of it, or we could just add a space as we are adding the variables together. So we're just going to do the second one, but that's what we can do. Now, I'm going to just go ahead and add one more note right here. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm just going to say we're adding a space to this. So actually, you know what? Let's do this instead. I am going to copy this. So we see it printed out this way, and then I am going to add a space. So I'm going to hit enter here, and well, let's do a console.write line. And I just want to space this out a little bit. So I didn't send anything, so it's just like hitting enter twice. And in here, I'm going to say adding a space to full name variable. All right. So, all right, perfect. So now that we've already created full name, we don't need to add string to it. So if I said string full name again and equals, you're going to see this red. Hover over it. It's going to say a local variable or function name full name is already defined. So it's like, since it's already been defined, we don't need to define it again. And so just know you get that error. That's what that means. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But right now we're just going to say full name equals first name plus, and then I'm just going to do the quotes, but a space in the quotes plus last name. There we go. Now we could just do a console.write line and put in full name again. And we should get John Doe with a space. So now what we'll do is you'll notice how like, okay, there's added two strings together. That's the title. There's John Doe, adding a space to full name variable. So you got the space. So that's kind of how you start manipulating strings and adding things together. And just know that you can use this variable here after you've declared it. So when we declare it here, you're saying, hey, this variable full name is a data type of string. It's just going to hold things that have quotes in it. And that's what we want in there. But once it's already declared, you don't have to keep declaring it. You can now use this bin for whatever you want. So it's like, imagine you putting a label on this bin, strings, or string singular, right? And you're putting a string in here. You don't have to add another label that says the same thing again to this bin and do the same thing. You just open the bin, swap things out, change it up, do whatever you want with it. So that's kind of how you would do some of that. So now what we're going to do is let's make this a little bit more uh, uh, friendlier in terms of using a variable. So I'm going to hit enter, and what we're going to do is instead of adding a literal space, we're going to make a variable for it. So we're going to say string space equals the actual space. There we go. And now I'm going to just do a console write line, and let's go ahead and use a different name. So I'm just going to put in my write line, clearing full name and resetting with another name. All right, there we go. So I'm just going to say full name equals nothing. All right. So as we move forward now, we're just going to do more and more of this where we're just going to keep typing as we go along and just add some more information on what's really happening here, right? So we're just going to do a console write line. Let's go ahead and say print value of full name, and I'm just going to do the colon space and close the parentheses and do plus full name. And really, this is just to prove that full name is empty. And we want to visually see it, right? It's like, oh, I believe you, it's empty. Are you sure though? And voila, nothing there. Now, if you really want to be like, well, how do I really know this is happening? I'm just going to go, um, here is some other stuff. You don't have to have that, but just so you know, there's a giant space in between it. Well, not giant. I mean, it's really like right here now. So, but just to know that you are typing stuff afterwards, this variable. So I'm just going to clear that out because I don't need that. And now what we're going to do is let's go ahead and make a new first name, last name. And since I'm a very creative person, I'm going to say Lucy is the first name. And I'm just going to say last name equals to Smith. And I will get better at names eventually, but for now this works. And go ahead and just do another console dot write line, and we're gonna say new name with using the space variable, right? So we did all this, clear the variable, added some pieces, so we can do the following: console dot write line, and we're just gonna say first name plus space plus last name. Last name, there we go. Perfect. Hit save. I'm going to do this, and let's see what comes out. And we get Lucy Smith with the space. Check it out. So now we're starting to put items into variables, and we name the variables with meaningful names. So space is literally a space. Now, first name makes sense, last name makes sense. So what else can we do just to add a little bit more? Let's go ahead and make a middle initial. And so we'll do that in this next piece right here. But in order for us to use a middle initial, I'm going to show you a new data type. Right now, you've been using strings with the double quotes. What we're now going to do is middle, since it's a middle initial, we're going to use a character. And what we use is what it's called is a char. So we're just going to do char, and it'll pop up like this. You'll get your options. space, and I'm going to say middle initial, and we're going to give this middle initial with a single quote tick a letter. Pick whatever letter you want, and we got ourselves a middle initial. Now, it's important to know the second you do this, it's going to error out because it's going to say too many characters. This is only for a singular one. Okay? So once you've done that, let's go ahead and do a console write line. So I'm going to do two of them. The first console write line is just saying what we're doing. Name with middle initial added. And let's go ahead and do this. And now we're going to do console.writeLine. And we're going to say first name plus space plus middle initial plus space plus last name. There we go. That was a lot. But all we're doing is adding spaces in between everything from first name, middle initial, last name. And let's go ahead and hit save and run this and take a look at what's going around. So let's see. Did it run? Oh, there we go. All right. So we have Lucy L. Smith with your spaces. So that's kind of how you start adding variables, putting them in, and declaring things like spaces and so forth, and just keep on going, right? So now what we want to do is move on to the next piece. But before we do that, let's go ahead and just close this out. And I'm going to start doing this for every section just to make it easier for us as we go through all the items. So I'm just going to do a console.writeLine and just add a line, and then do console.writeLine, and inside the write line I'm going to do section break, and then I'm going to hit save and hit enter, and it will run, and you'll have the line at the very bottom ready to go for our next section. So next thing that's up is numbers.